my babies. Welcome to In the Kitchen with Kalila. Happy fall, y'all. So, it's now fall season, which means it's time to start making some warm, satisfying, comforting foods. And today I'm going to be making one of my most favorite meals back home in New Orleans that I like to eat when the temperature drops just a little bit. And that dish is going to be combination Yakamein. In New Orleans, we say Yakamein or Yaki meat, but it's actually Yakamein. I've heard it saying like that, and also Yakamein. There are several different stories on how Yaki meat made it to New Orleans. The notable late Leah Chase has been cited as saying that it was brought in by Chinese immigrants when they came in to build the railroads in New Orleans. I also heard that it came from African American soldiers that were returning from the Korean War, and because they loved the soups and they wanted to bring it back home, they brought Yakamein with them. Also, it has a nickname called Old Sober. It's called Old Sober because it was widely prepared in the back of the house, in bar rooms, in late night restaurants that people would eat to sober up before going home because of its hearty broth and its spiciness is said to, kind of make you sober up. Today we're going to be making a combination Yakamein. It combines three meats. It combines beef stew meat, which is here, pork stew meat, and shrimp. So I like to combine the three because all three of them have different textures and each of them takes a different flavor on of the broth. So I have here's a pound of beef stew meat, a pound of pork stew meat, and a pound of shrimp. But the broth in the Yakamein is the very most important base of this dish. You have to make sure that your broth is nice and flavorful. Okay? So how we're gonna start? You're gonna start with a nice heavy stock pot. And what you want to do first is you want to go ahead and add your 1 pound of beef in there. And then you want to add your pork. You're only going to add your beef and pork for now because these are going to take the longest to go ahead and boil and get really tender. The shrimp won't be introduced until the last 5 minutes of cooking because shrimp doesn't take as long, and that's just enough time for it to infuse and get those very delicious flavors into that shrimp. So what we're going to do is we're going to season this meat, which is also going to season our broth. What we're going to use is a little Creole seasoning, and this is Zatarain's, which is what I prefer. And you just shake until you feel like you have enough, because don't forget that you're going to be adding water to this. So if you look like you over season a little bit, that's okay, because the water is going to thin that seasoning out. Also, what I like to add is a little garlic powder. I don't use any exact measurements. I just shake until my ancestors tell me to stop, because everything is really seasoned to taste. We're going to do a little onion powder. And this is what I like to call l'épice de resistance. This is Dale steak seasoning. A lot of people in New Orleans don't know about this, but I actually just put it in today trying to improvise, and everybody else who has tried it tell me it's the best Yakamein broth ever. So we're just going to put in a little bit of Dale steak season. Now, be careful with this because this can tend to be a little salty. And in the end of it, you're going to garnish your bowl with soy sauce, which is also have a high sodium content, and hot sauce. So you don't want to put too much in there to where your broth is too salty, okay? And if you do, then that just means you can back up off the soy sauce, okay? So we're going to go ahead and fill this this pot up about halfway, where it's about 3 to 4 inches above the meat. And we're going to put that on the stove to broil. Also, we're going to put in, because Yakamein is garnished with two things. It's garnished with hard-boiled eggs and chopped green onions. So we're going to go ahead and put this on to broil. We're going to put our eggs on to broil, and you want a hard-boiled egg. And also, you're going to have some spaghetti. I have 1 pound of thin spaghetti here, or 1 box of thin spaghetti, and we're gonna put that on to boil also. And as we get everything rolling, then we're gonna finish it up and we're gonna boil it, and we're gonna see how to garnish it and see how delicious it's gonna taste. Usually your beef stew and pork stew meat takes about 45 minutes to an hour to get nice and tender, because the beef stew meat is thick cuts of meat, so it takes a while to get tender. So we're going to get that on, and we're going to take a little break, and we're going to start on a dessert while all this is cooking. Two more optional things that I like to put in my Yakamein. You don't have to, into the broth, is a beef bouillon cube and a capful of liquid crab barrel. The liquid crab barrel, when I'm using seafood, I like that because it enhances the seafood flavor. And the chicken bouillon cube, the liquid crab barrel I like because it enhances the seafood flavor. And the beef bouillon cube I like to add in for a little bit to enhance the beef flavor. And then the pork is going to take on both of those flavors. So I don't know about y'all. One of my favorite things that I like to do after I eat a nice good meal is something sweet. I love to eat something sweet. So while our Yakamein is going ahead and cooking, we're going to go ahead and whip us up some Ooey Gooey cake. So Ooey Gooey cake is another popular dessert that's very found in New Orleans. The original is called Ooey Gooey butter cake. Some people also call it Philly dough, but I like to call it Ooey Gooey butter cake. The original cake is just a butter cake mix at the bottom, mixed together, and on the top it's a nice, creamy, flaky cream cheese topping. Today we're going to be making a butter pecan flavored Ooey Gooey cake. A butter pecan flavored Ooey Gooey cake. What I like about this particular flavor is that it's fall. Butter pecan is like one of my most favorite ice cream flavors, and you just can't beat it. And also what I like about this dessert is as many cake mixes they have in the store is how many flavors and varieties you can get of this particular dessert, because the flavor is in the cake mix. So if you want a strawberry, a chocolate, a spice, banana, pineapple, whatever you feel like, you buy that flavored cake mix and do the process exactly the same. I myself has even came up with a king cake version of a Ooey Gooey cake. Yeah, I came up with a king cake version. It was one of my most best sold desserts during Carnival or Mardi Gras season. So let's get into this butter pecan. So this is my first time actually trying this flavor. I saw it in the store today and I was like, oh my God, I gotta try it. I bet you that would be so good as an Ooey Gooey cake. And guess what? You guys get to try it with me. So let's go ahead and start. So for the base, what you want to do first is you're going to get a large mixing bowl. But we're going to go ahead. I have a 15 by 10 Pyrex dish because I like my Ooey Gooey cakes to be, the cake part to be on the slightly thinner side. If you go by a 13 by 9 size pan, then it's going to be more of a thicker side. But I like mine slightly thin, so I went with a bigger pan. So this recipe can actually fit into a 15 by 10 Pyrex dish or glass dish, or you can do a 10 by 9. It's totally up to you, and you play with the different sizes and see the consistency you prefer. So what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and spray our glass dish or pan, whatever you're using, with some non-stick cooking spray. I prefer the pan with flour or baker's joy, whichever one I happen to pick up at the time, but I always bake with something with flour in it. Or you can do it the old time traditional way, which is like butter and flour. You can do it that way also, whatever you decide to do. And next, we're going to get into the mix. So only thing that the base is your favorite cake mix. We're going to go ahead and open that cake mix. And so like I said, today we're doing butter pecan. And you're going to go ahead and dump that into your large mixing bowl. Okay, discard that bag. And the one thing it takes, next you're going to have 1 stick of margarine. And this is your base, guys. And 1 egg, 1 large egg. Crack that in. And all you want to do to that, and being that it's butter pecan, what we're going to add, why not just sprinkle in a couple of chopped pecans up in there, you know, just for grins and giggles. It's butter pecan, so what's a butter pecan cake without pecans? And we're going to put this into our base. And today we're using a hand mixer. I do have a big KitchenAid, but for this one, this is such a small batch, we're just going to use a hand mixer today. So what we're going to do is go ahead and just mix all this together. And this is the egg. 1 stick of softened butter, not melted. Your favorite cake mix, in this case we're doing butter pecan. And we're going to mix all that up together. And the consistency is going to be like cookie dough. Absolutely perfect. So we're going to take our spatula here and kind of like scrape all the sides of the dough. Like so. And I like to take my spatula and just push all that dough from in between the blades. Oh, this smells so good. You can just smell the butter, and it smells kind of like maple. Maybe in a mix or something like that. It kind of smells like maple syrup. So you want to try to get all that dough off your blades. Oh my God, y'all, this smells so good. It's like, you remember when your grandmother used to be making cakes and you just loved when she finished, get there and just lick the batter and the bowl with your little nasty fingers. I'm just kidding. Hopefully you washed your hands before you did it. But you wanted to just lick that bowl. That was like the favorite thing. We all would be fighting over who was going to get what blade and who was going to get the bowl. Good old times. You know, people don't really let their kids do that anymore because, you know, they always hollering about the salmonella from the eggs going to make you sick. I ain't heard nobody else yet got sick off of raw cake batter or cookie dough. And we still here, so I think we might be all right. So we're going to go ahead and transfer that to the sink. We're going to move all the other stuff to the side out the way. That's going to be for our topping. We're going to get into that later. And I want to show y'all what you're going to do. You want to take the bottom portion and pretty much put this into your grease sheet. Just plop it on in there. Make sure you scrape it on out. Now this is the part next that people might find a little gross because they don't like to touch certain textures, but it really doesn't bother me as much. The only thing I don't like mixing with my bare hand is raw meat, but I can deal with like cookie dough and things like that. I just feel like I can get it, you know, to act better. So I'm going to take this bowl, we're going to sit it over here in the sink and get it out our way so I can show you how we're going to do the base. So what you have there is your cookie dough or your base. So what you want to do, I'm right-handed, so I make it easy. I take my hand and I spray it, and of course my hands are freshly washed and clean. I spray it with a little thing, and what you want to do is press that down evenly into the pan, all around. I find it better if I do it with my hands because I can feel even and make sure that it's evenly pressed. You can also use a spatula to do it also if you don't feel comfortable with doing it this way. Or you can use the gloved hand if you prefer, but have you ever seen your grandma cook with gloves in her own kitchen? No. My family gonna eat it, and that's all that matters. So as you can see, that's nice and flattened down, and this is your base. And what we're gonna do to keep from dirtying up too many dishes, we're gonna wash our bowls and our beaters, and then we're gonna go ahead and mix up our topping that we're gonna spread on top before we put in the oven. And guys, also we're gonna bake this in a preheated 325-degree oven. Okay. So let's turn around. I'm going to go ahead and wash my hands and wash these utensils out, and then we're going to mix up the topping. So now that we got our bowl clean, washed, and dried in our beaters, we're going to start on a topping that we're going to spread on top of our base mixture before we put it in the oven. So we're going to start with, this is 1 block of softened cream cheese. One egg, 3½ cups of powdered sugar, or if you don't have a big bag like mine, the equivalency of 1 box of powdered or confectioner sugar. 2, 3, and 1/2. Okay, so 3½ cups of powdered or confectioner sugar and 1 teaspoon of vanilla. So we're going to go ahead and use our beater and mix all that up. How that's forming around the blades here. And this should be like the consistency of cookie batter. And this should be like the consistency of cake batter. Okay?